Hi wonderful people, it's Wild here. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create this magical log house complete with lots of fairy tale mushrooms. This build makes a perfect base or addition to any fantasy, cottagecore, nature-inspired or fairy tale world. If you would like a world download or schematic for this build, make sure you check out the link in the description below. Also, I apologize if I sound a little bit like a frog today, or if I have a sniffle. I've got a cold, but let's get building. The materials you'll need for this build are on your screen now. Keep in mind that it's always useful to have a few extra of each supply on hand. Here is the outline for today's build. You can see that for this stump house, we have a circular main section with the diameter of 13 blocks across in the interior, and then we have these darker sections marked in for the roots. Now you can place in a circle like this one and then count out where those roots go in using the grid placed in there, and you can use any block to place in this outline. It'll just make building a bit easier. Now we're going to start off by creating a base layer for this log house. So I'm going to start by creating a frame with the door, and that's going to be out of moss blocks. So it's just a little U shape like this with the gap for the doorway. You can see that I've placed it off to one side of this 5 wide section. Then I'm going to come to the other 3 5 wide sections, and just behind I'm going to place a stack going 5 high of a temporary block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll place in 5 barrels facing in towards the build. I can then go ahead and remove these temporary blocks. And while we're doing this, you can see that our outline is a mixture of 5 wide sections and then these 2 wide sections on the corners. And we're going to be jumping between these flatter sides and these curved sections as we build. Now I'm going to take some oak wood, that's the kind that has the texture on all of its sides, and I'm going to be building up to the same height on either side of these barrels, and then one lower on either side of that. Just like this. Let's finish these panels. Now we want to create the same shape on the front, but we've got a different thing to work around. So this side of the door frame is in the center, and we can check that because it lines up with the barrels behind, and it's already 3 blocks high. So I'm just going to add 2 more blocks to build it up to that 5 high height. Then we need to go 2 high to build up to that 5 high height to match that other side, and then add 1 more in here. Then on this side, we'll just do the same thing, building up 5 high and then 4 high. Now let's fill the corners up to this same height. So we're going to start in the very corner here, building up 5 high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now to either side of this, we'll build up 3 high. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And then over here as well. Like that. I'm going to add 2 blocks coming up on the closest section to this 5 wide section. Like that. And then we're going to need some temporary blocks. I'll place these inside like this. So that way I can stack some logs on top. 1 here, 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. And then I can remove these blocks again. So looking from the outside, it'll look like this. And I'm going to repeat this on the other 3 corners. One thing to keep in mind when working with this wood is that it has a different texture depending on which way you place it. So you can see that this looks the same as those blocks when you look straight on, but from the side it looks different. So you want to make sure you're placing all your logs in the same direction for a nice smooth texture. Let's continue filling this in. So you can see that I've completed this circle now and it's starting to taper in. Let's continue this. I'm going to start by placing some temporary blocks, 3 across these sections here. Then I'm going to take some more of my logs. We're going to be building up 2 high out to one side of this 3 wide section. So we'll have a total of 5 blocks across, like this. Then in the center of each of these 5 wide sections, we're going to build up 3 high. And then 1 to either side of that. We're going to add in some more temporary blocks now, so I'm going to come inside the build, and where we have this kind of corner shape, we're adding 1 to either side. Then I'll come back outside the build, and we're going to be building up 3 high on these sections, leaving out the corner. Just like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and place in a few more temporary blocks in these joins here. Then I'm going to build up 3 high on top of those temporary blocks. And then 2 high beside it. We're leaving out the corner here. Finally, to fill in that corner, we'll add in 4 more temporary blocks and build up 2 high. Let's go ahead and remove all of these temporary blocks, and then we'll have a look at the shape of the trunk now. Almost there. And let's come outside. So you can see that it tapers in, but it has a nice even shape. Then when we go ahead and add in all of our roots and definition, it's going to have a more natural shape. You can also see from above that the circle is smaller now. Next, we're going to add in our windows. I'm going to start by placing the windows that are on the front wall. I'm going to come to this layer here where it's 5 wide across and 2 high. And then on the lower layer over on this left hand side, I'm going to break this block and add in a green stained glass. Then on the other side, diagonally up from this block here, I'm going to add in another window. Like that. Next, we're going to come around to the right hand side. I'm going to have my first window in this 2 wide panel in the center here, so let's place that in. And then the next one, I'm going to come to this barrel stack, and diagonally up to the right, I'm going to add in another window. Now coming around to the back, we just have 1 window, and that's placed 4 blocks up. 1, 2, 3, 4, next to this barrel. Just like that. And around to the final side, which is the left-hand side when looking from the front, we have 3 windows. So for the first one, I'm going to come to this section here, the 2 wide section, and I'm going to break this block and add in my window. Then I'm going to have one centered right at the top here, just like that. And then I'm going to find this 2 by 5 section, and I'm going to add 1 window off to the side here like this. With all of our windows in place, we're going to start adding on to this basic log shape. I'm going to start by adding to the top. So I've come to the front, and then I'm going to come to this corner section off to the right hand side. I'm going to be building up 3 high with some logs here, 2 high off to that side, and 1 high here. Let's add in a stair here and a couple of trapdoors. There, and 1 here. Coming around a little bit more, I'm going to place a slab in here. Then we're going to have 3 1 high additions like this, 3 2 high additions like this, and then we're going to go in with some stairs and slabs. So let's place a slab in here, and then we've got a stair on this center block of the 2 high additions we've just added. Coming around to the back now, I'm going to be building up 3 high here, 1, 2, 3, and 3 high here, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to use a stair just in this gap and add 2 blocks on top of that. Then I'll add in another grouping of 3 like this, and I'll place a slab on top of this one. Continuing around the log, I'm going to use a temporary block to be able to build up 3 high here, 1, 2, 3, and I'll place a slab on top of this one. Then I'm going to place a trapdoor in here, and I'll place an extra log on top of that. I'll build up 3 high on these 3 blocks. And and I'll add in one more slab, and let's remove that temporary block. Continuing around, we're going to build up 2 high here, 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 and finally here, like this. Then I'm going to add in a stair on this top block and build up 4 high. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll add 2 blocks on this side and 1 block on this side, and then we've got a stair here and a trapdoor on this block. I'm just going to add 1 more slab in here and we're almost all the way around, so let's finish this off. I'm going to be adding in 3 blocks like this, and I'm going to be placing some slabs on top of them. Then I've got 1 more block here, and then we've got 2 more slabs. So you can see that we've added a bit more texture to the top of this trunk. Next, let's move down and work on the front of this build. We're going to add in this root first. Starting with some oak logs, I'm building up 2 high next to the trunk itself. Then I'm going to come out 1 like this. Then we've got a few 1 high blocks like this, and we're tapering down to a point with a trapdoor at the end. I'm also going to go ahead and create the archway that's going around our door. So for this, I'm placing in 4 stairs in a circular shape, like that. Then we've got some trapdoors. And on this side, I'm going to add an extra stair and an extra trapdoor, just to round out the shape. Then coming up, we're going to place in 2 more trapdoors and a stair on top of that. Next, let's work on this section. I'm going to place in an extra stair, and then we've got 3 trapdoors. And if we take a step back, here's how it's looking. One thing we do need to do is cover up this moss that's visible from the frame of the door. So we're going to place in an extra wood, then we've got a stair and a trapdoor, and you can see that covers that up nicely. Let's rotate around to this right hand side, and we're going to stop at the corner and add in some details. So I'm going to first add in a stair next to this wall where we have the window, and I've got a couple trapdoors as well, here and here. Then we've got this taller section. I'm going to add 3 trapdoors going up, just like that. Then on top, I'll add in a stair and a trapdoor. There we go. And I'm going to add an extra block in here, and in fact, I'm going to add 1 more trapdoor as well. For the next side, we're going to start by building up 5 high directly behind these barrels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like that. I'm also going to create a little L shape here, building up 2 and 1 to this side. We're going to build up 4 high over here, and just 2 high here, and let's place in a stair and some trapdoors. I'm also placing a stair in up here. Now we need to bring this all forward. So let's start by building up 3 high here and 2 high beside that. Then we'll create an L shape like this, and we're going to go 1 to this side. I'm also going to add in a stair and a slab. To finish off these roots, we're going to place in 2 slabs here and a trapdoor. And then coming to this side, we've got a slab followed by a block, so it's going down and up, and then another block, a slab, and a trapdoor, like that. We have another section of root coming out here on the corner, so I'm going to start by building up 3 high in this corner, adding an extra block to this one. Then we're going to build 2 high and going 1 down, and 1 over here, and then we've got 3 more blocks just in this L shape. Looking up from here, I'm going to come to this point where we have the stair on top, and I'm going to add an extra block over here. I'm also going to come down and add a trapdoor over on this side like this, and then I'm going to add a stair in over here as well. Now I'm looking at the back of the build, and like we did on this side, we're going to be building up 5 high behind these barrels. I'm also going to place 3 blocks on top and a block coming to the side, and then we've got 2 trapdoors. You can see that there should be a 1 block gap between this trapdoor and the stair. Now let's come back down. I'm going to be building up to the height of the bottom of this window here, and then 2 on this side and 2 on that side. I'm going to place in 2 more blocks here and a block coming down and out, and we'll add a slab on top of this one and a stair on top of this one. Now we need to work on this root, so I'm going to add another block here and extend these blocks along the diagonal, and then we'll add in 2 slabs, and in fact we're going to place in 1 extra trapdoor just curving backwards around that way. On this block here we have a stair going in and a trapdoor on top of that, and here is how the back should look. For the next corner root, I'm going to start by building up 3 high here. 1, 2, 3, and adding a block next to this window. I'll add in 2 blocks on either side of that, here and here. Then we've got 2 blocks coming forward and a couple of blocks just here like this. Let's place in a slab and some trapdoors, and we've got a trapdoor over on this side too, beside these 2 we've just added. And then we're ready to work on the next root. Once again, we're going to be building up 5 high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to cover up those barrels. I'll build 3 high in the center here and 1 to either side, and I'm also adding 1 down here. So it'll look like this. Let's add 2 blocks coming to this side and 4 blocks on this side. There we go, and then 2 blocks beside that. Now coming forward, we're going to be building up 3 high. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and I'll add a stair on top of this one, facing that way. Next, we've got 2 blocks here and a block here with a stair facing forward, and we're going to add a block here with a slab on top. I'll create an L with some blocks on this side and place in a couple blocks on that side like that. And we're going to finish off these roots by adding in some slabs as well as some trapdoors. Moving back up here onto our stump, I'm going to be placing in a couple of logs up here and 1 over to this side as well, and this just makes it a little bit more natural looking, breaking up the shape. While we're at it, I'm going to come back around to this corner, and where we have this section here, which is 5 blocks tall, I'm going to be placing a stair on one side with a trapdoor and a trapdoor on the other, and then I'm going to place 2 more trapdoors below that and make sure they're flipped up. Now that we've got our tree trunk looking a lot more natural, it's really starting to come together. Next, I'm going to take some spruce trapdoors and I'm going to come to each of our windows and place in a flower pot and surround the open sides with the trapdoors. So you'll need different amounts of trapdoors depending on which window you're working on. So there's the front 2. Let's move around and do some of the others. So this side, we're just going to need 3 for this window. And don't forget your flower pot. I'm going to come back in later and add some greenery and flowers to these, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and decorate all these windows. We just want them to blend in seamlessly with the tree. Once you've got them all decorated, it's a good idea to go back and just double check that you've covered all of the windows. There is quite a few and they are kind of tucked in. And I think I'm onto the last one. There we are. Next, we're going to work on the top of this log, so if you're in survival, make sure you light up inside. It's also a good idea to do so in creative, but I'm going to go ahead and do that later. I'm going to start by coming inside the log and facing towards the front. Then I'm going to be placing in 2 oak planks here and here. Then some podzol, and I'm going to create a little W shape or kind of an M, and I find it easiest to work from within the build when I'm creating this. Now I'm going to place in 3 stripped oak logs coming this way. Then we've got some more podzol, just like this. And we're going to be creating a little bit of a zigzag with the logs. There we go. And we're going to place in 3 planks along there. 1, 2, 3. Let's add in a couple more logs. 2 here, and then 2 here. I'm also going to add 2 coming out this way and 4 coming out beside it. There we go. Let's place in a couple of planks here and here, and then I'm going to create sort of a square, but I'm going to leave out this corner. So it's looking like this from above. And I'm going to fill in these 2 blocks with my stripped logs. Just like that. And in fact, I like to have this one facing upwards, since it's the very center of our log. Moving on, we'll add 2 blocks in here, 2 planks coming this way, and I'm going to add 3 more logs. I'm going to leave this gap free, so I'm going to leave a temporary block here because that's where our ladder's going, and I'll place a plank beside that. I'm also going to have 2 planks here and 2 planks here, and I'm going to add 2 on a diagonal like this. Let's add in a couple more logs like that. I'm going to rotate and place in 3 along here and 3 along here like this. And then we're going to add in a plank to the side next to this window. I want to leave this window clear, so we're going to place in a temporary block, and then the rest of this space is getting filled in with the oak slabs. Looking from above, here's how it looks. Now, since this section of the log is raised up, we want the floor to be a little bit higher here. Let's start by adding in the podzol for our planter. I'll build 4 across here and then fill in this gap. And I'm also going to add 1 more here. Then I'm going to add in some planks. We have 4 coming along like this. Then we've got some logs. Finally, we'll create a step using some slabs. So it'll look like this. It is time to start adding some details to this build, and we're going to begin by creating all of the mushrooms. I'm starting on this first root that we created. I'm going to be placing a stair over here and a stair over here. Then we've got a block, and you can see that we're using this smooth sandstone texture so that we have access to stairs and slabs and it all blends together. I'm going to place a slab on top of here. Then I'm going to use a temporary block to build up 2 high to this side. And then I'm going to take my red mushroom blocks for the top. Let's create a square first, and then a little plus on top of that. There we go. For our next little red mushroom, we're going to come around to the right hand side and then continue around a little bit towards the back. So we've got this trapdoor that we placed in before, and it's below a slab. So I'm going to use this to locate where I'm going to place my mushroom. I'm going to come down a step, and then off to this side I'll place in a stair with a slab on top. Then a temporary block so that I can place in a block with a stair on top facing out towards the back like that. Then I'm going to place a block behind here so that I can place 1 more stair coming this way and a block on top. Then let's go ahead and add our mushroom top in. So here's how this one looks. For our final mushroom of this size, we're going to come around to the back where we have this trapdoor down here. I'm going to place in a stair and then a slab on top. Then using a temporary block, I'm going to place in 2 blocks going up. Then I'll add my mushroom top on top of this. And here's how this mushroom looks. For the first of our big mushrooms, I'm going to come around to this left-hand side if you were looking from the front, and it's where we have our 3 windows. I'm going to come to this middle height window right here and add in 2 stairs going upwards. I'll add a block off of this and then a slab on top. Coming over to this side, using a temporary block, I'll place in 3 sandstone going up with a slab on top of that. Then I'll come over again and add in 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Remove these blocks. And I'm going to create a square around the top of this mushroom stem with some slabs, and that's going to provide the base for creating the mushroom. Let's add in the mushroom now using red and white wool. I'm going to be building in the spots as I go, and the shape of these mushrooms is going to have an organic feel. So it's going to hang down a little bit on the sides. Now your mushrooms might be a little bit different to mine, but that's okay. So here's how the first couple sides look. I'm around at the back side of the mushroom now, and I'm going to add in a few more blocks coming downwards. Now the thing with this part of the build, as well as the rest of it, is that it's a natural item. So if yours is a bit different to mine, don't worry at all. It just adds to the character and uniqueness of your build. 1 more spot going in, and here's how this mushroom looks. This next mushroom is a lot larger, but it is on the same sort of side. We're coming down to this diagonal section here. On top of this 3 high stack of logs, I'm going to add in my first stair. Then I'm going to have 2 blocks coming down beside that and a stair over here. I'm going to add a stair diagonally up from that, and then I'll add in 2 more blocks. And I'm going to tuck a slab in here. I'm going to add 2 blocks on top of that, and then I can add in a stair, another stair, and 2 blocks coming up. Then we'll have a stair coming this way and a block on top of that. To finish off this mushroom stalk, we'll add in another stair coming towards the front of the build, and then I'm going to build up 3 high and create a square around this using blocks this time. There we go. Now to add in the mushroom top. Once again, I'm adding the spots as I go, but you could just as easily create the shape out of red and then come back in to add in the spots. So here's this side, and coming around to the other side, I'm going to start on the top and continue filling in. There we go, there is our next finished mushroom. For our next large mushroom, I'm going to come over to the back of the build where we have this root here. And I'm coming to these 2 blocks to add in my first stair. I'll add a block on top of that, and then we're going in with 2 stairs coming towards each other like this. I'll add a slab on top of here, then we've got 2 blocks and another slab. I use a temporary block to come out on an angle, and I'm building up 3 high, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to add a platform on top of this, again using the blocks. So our stalk will look like this. Again, moving on to creating the mushroom top. And you can see that I'm making sure each one is just a little bit different, and this adds to the character of the mushrooms. I also like to go around and check that the distribution of spots is fairly even on my mushroom. So there's those sides. And the final sides are a little bit squishy, but let's get filling them in. And there is our last large mushroom. Now our log house is really coming together, but before we continue on the outside details, I'm going to come inside the build. So I'm going to start in the doorway and fill in my floor. I'm choosing to use oak planks as I think it works with the interior of a log, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the whole thing. Now it's gotten to be quite dark in here, but I've almost filled in the whole floor. I'm going to remove this last central block, and I've lined it up with the barrels on both sides to make sure it's in the center, and I'm going to replace that with a frog light. I'll then cover this up by placing a mossy carpet over the top. I'm doing it in a circular shape since this is a circular build and it just feels right. I'm also going to go ahead and add in an oak door, making sure it's flush with the moss from the outside. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my ladder to get up to the mezzanine floor I'm going to create. For this, I'm placing in some barrels here, and I'm going to place this ladder going all the way up to the top there, just like that. Now I'm going to be using these oak slabs to create my floor. I'm starting beside this ladder here, and I'm going to go around like this. Then I'm going to count 2 blocks, add in a block, come 3 across like this. Then I'm going to come in. I'm going to come in again and count 2 blocks this time, come back out, and I'll connect up like this. So I've created a kind of circular opening here, and I'll fill in the rest of the floor for this mezzanine. You can see that by adding in these floors, you have tons of space within this log, and you can always add a basement level for more room. Now, I haven't placed any interior walls in yet, but when you're decorating, you can make those decisions depending on how you want to use your space. Make sure you fill in underneath these windows, and there we go. Now that I've got this in, I'm going to take some oak fences and just create a little railing around the edge. Next up, I'm going to take some spruce trapdoors, and we're going to be using this to cover up the open sides of the glass windows. So I'm going to make sure that I have no glass showing. I might need to go downstairs and check down here. Here's one. There we go. And I think we've got all of our windows. I'm also going to take some lanterns while I'm down here and hang a few. And I'm going to hang some within this gap. So you can see that we've got the dirt showing, so to cover that up, I'm going to be grabbing a few of the oak slabs and we'll place these in first. And with those in place, we're going to be hanging some lanterns down from this area. I like to have them hung at various heights, and it adds to the whimsical look of this build. Let's see, let's have one over here. And one more over here. I'll check the height of the lanterns. I think that looks nice. There we go, that looks lovely. And while I'm up the top here, I can add in a couple more lanterns. There we are. I'm going to also remove these temporary blocks while I'm within here, and this will reveal this window as well as a gap up to the next level, which is our balcony. So I'll add a ladder going up, I can climb up that, and I can add a spruce trapdoor on top. So we've kind of got the interior under control now, so let's continue adding details. I'm going to start by adding some furniture up the top here. First, I'm going to add in a swing, so my first part of the post is going to be just behind the center here, and I'm going to build up a total of 4 high. I'll then count 2 over and build up 4 high again, and we'll go over the top with some more dark oak slabs. To create the swing, we've got some chains coming down, and then a couple of spruce trapdoors. There we are. Next, we're adding in a campfire and some seating. I like the contrast the dark oak provides, but you could swap this out for any kind of wood you like. Cherry would also be a lovely option. Before we move on to greenery, I'm going to add in a few more lanterns, and I'm hanging these from the bottoms of some of these mushrooms. Like we had inside, I want to hang these at different heights to play into that whimsical feel. And I might have maybe 3 or 4 on the larger mushrooms, and then 2 on the smaller mushrooms. And I'll add in my lanterns. There we are, over to this next one. On the mushrooms that are higher up, you can have your chains coming down a little bit further. And onto our final mushroom. Now you can see that I am not hanging any lanterns from this mushroom, and that's because we've got slabs up here, so we're not able to hang anything off of there. But it looks really wonderful with all that glowing lanterns. The next step is to add greenery. So I'm going to be adding leaves, moss, and of course adding in some flowers. For the moss, I just want to add little patches here and there coming up the side of the log, and it's up to you how much or how little moss you add. Of course, the more moss you add, the older your log is going to look. So I like to add in a little bit, take a step back and see if I like the way it looks, and then I can always come back and adjust it later. Let's add a little bit more on this side. And maybe some around here. One more block. And I think that looks good. I'm also going to be creating naturally shaped planters along the base of the mushroom using some podzol, and this helps to ground the build and defines where I'm going to be placing my flowers. So I'm just going to have a few here and there, and you can see they have a very organic shape. I'll come back to adding in these planters later, but I'm going to be using a mixture of red, white, pink and green flowers and greenery, and that's going to tie in well with the leaves I'm using. You can see that I'm using azalea leaves just to add a little bit of extra lushness. So I like to go in with the plain azalea leaves first like this, just to give me a rough shape for how I want the leaves to fall. Let's see, I think I might come down to here with that one. And you can always make adjustments. I might move these around a bit. Maybe move this one up a little. And I might add one more in here. Ah, that's better. Then I'll go in with my flowering azalea leaves just to add a pop of colour. So I'm going to have several of these draped along the top of the mushroom, or rather the logs, and I'm going to have these coming out from the joins in the mushrooms as well as some bushes. So let's go ahead and add in tons of greenery and really bring this build to life. So I've just finished adding in the last details, so let's have a look at how I've decorated this build. You can see that we have a very lush landscape here. So of course I've gone ahead and added lots more leaves coming off of the top, and if we come up to the top actually, you can see how they come into the space up here. I've also added in flowers and greenery to all of my planters up here and down at the base of the tree trunk. And I've used the same flowers in planters around the rest of the garden as well. I framed this house by placing in these patches of wheat. And I've gone with an organic shape for these to tie in with the organic nature of this build. And of course, one of the features of this log are all of its beautiful mushrooms, so I've added some smaller mushrooms around the landscape. And of course, I've placed this in a dark oak forest with its large mushrooms as well, so it all ties together, although this build would look great in any biome. You'll also notice that some of these mushrooms are glowing, and that is because I've hidden some frog lights underneath. And this adds to the lovely ambience created by all the lanterns on this build. Let's have a look at some of the other decor items. I've got paths here leading off into different locations, and one of these spaces leads to a small seating area where I've placed a cake and a pot with a mushroom in it. If we go around to the back side of the build, we'll go past this little scarecrow to a little gardening zone. So I've got some tables set up with some pots and some pot plants. I've got some shears here to act as secateurs, and then I've got a little shovel as well. And of course we have a composter just nearby. So you can see that for my theming, I've gone with this kind of whimsical nature-inspired design, but you could really enhance the fairy aspects of this build by changing out the decor, and you can find lots of inspiration for both interior and exterior decorations in the description below. So now you have a charming tree stump house complete with mushrooms. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you consider liking and subscribing, and make sure you join my Discord to share some pictures of your build. I'll see you in another video!